And I'll tell you, just thinking short term, our summertime here is forecast at this point to be pretty warm and rather dry. So we'll talk about that in a different context in just a second, but let's get you outside of the Providence Skycam where it's still dreary. Today, not necessarily a dry day. It hasn't been super soaking, but we have been really misty, drizzly, that kind of annoying weather where it just feels like the atmosphere is kind of spitting at you a little bit. Yeah, that's what today's been. And tonight's going to be a little more of the same. We're not looking at more showers. Those have gone by the wayside at this point, but we will be mostly cloudy and temperatures will be rather mild. But let's talk about how wet this May has been. If you didn't hear me say this earlier, we are currently in the middle of the 5th wettest May on record. The first wettest was all the way back in 1948. And just a reminder that the month's not over, but all that wet weather has been tremendous for the sake of the drought. We had been in a deficit for months, and now there is no more drought in the state of Rhode Island. Even Massachusetts, we are whittling it away. And in fact, I want to show you a comparison here. I'm going to step off the screen for this, but I want you to look because here's, first of all, Rhode Island from February and then from this past week, the most recent iteration of the drought monitor. You'll notice the February map, we not only had dry conditions, so technically not drought at that point, but we also did have a moderate level of drought into parts of Providence County and just on the western sides of Kent and South County as well. You can see now, again, we've got nothing left of any of those conditions. Massachusetts has been even more extreme with severe drought. You can see the darker orange color through the middle of the state. That's been totally wiped clean, and even the Cape and parts of Nantucket still looking at some moderate drought, but it's significantly better because of the rain we've had so far this May. And we're not done is where I'm going with this. We are still looking at rain as we get to parts of Friday and the first half of the weekend, the last 2 days of this month. Now let's start with this. Here at home, again, there's not too much going on, but we're going to zoom out and you'll notice that across the country, there's a lot of green scattered across the map, but it's this area right over St. Louis that I'm looking at as we move toward the weekend. That's going to be our next weather maker as it starts to move back towards southern New England. So as we get through tomorrow, things are pretty benign. We still keep the clouds around, and in the afternoon, we could squeak out a shower or two. So if you want to get outdoors, I would really say you're pretty safe in the morning and early afternoon. Later in the day, that's when we could see a few pop-up showers and even a pocket or two of heavy rain. Everything we'll see is going to be pretty, again, benign, moving very quickly, but it's not going to be a totally dry day. As we get to Saturday, that's where things get a little more iffy. More on that in a second, but let's talk temperatures for tomorrow. We'll get Friday out of the way and then move on to the weekend. Temperatures in the upper 60s and low 70s. We look across the map here for Friday, looking at 72 degrees for the high in Providence, 69 in New Bedford, 65 for Newport, and 67 in North Kingstown. Taunton looking at 71 degrees tomorrow afternoon. Then we get from Friday into the early morning hours of Saturday, and here comes that area of low pressure. This is going to drive not just heavier rain, but the potential for a few early morning thunderstorms on Saturday. Thankfully, they look like they're going to stay below severe levels, which is good news, but don't be surprised if Mother Nature's alarm clock wakes you up on Saturday morning. We get a little break in the afternoon, but then later in the evening, we could see a second round of rain and even a pop-up thunderstorm as we get through those later evening hours and the very early morning on Sunday as well. Sunday then clears out and things look better for the second half of the day. Temperatures in the upper 60s on Sunday, and then as we move through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're back into the 70s with widespread sunshine. It's going to be a really nice start to next week. I love the energy. Monday